Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable moments to be with us for this inaugural sessions. And also, I would like to give a very warm welcome to guest of honor, Sri C. Author Gurchio, IS Director, Tribal Affairs and Hills, Manipur. Thank you, sir, for gracing this occasion as one of the guests of honor of this inaugural session. And also would like to extend my warm welcome to uh, guest of honor of this inaugural session, Professor T. Inau Singh, Dean, School of Education, Manipur University. Thank you, sir, for being a part of this inaugural session in spite of your tight schedule. And also, I, on behalf of the organizing committee, would like to give a very warm welcome to the president of this inaugural session, Professor E. Vijay Kumar Singh, Director, Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University. We would like to thank our director for giving his great support in organizing several programs over the years, over the last few years. Also, I, on behalf of the organizing committee, would like to welcome the keynote speaker of this session, Professor Alaida R. Dikar, Professor in Education and Dean Research Department of Extension, NIRI, NCERT, Shillong. Thank you, Madam, for giving your consent to deliver your keynote address for this 3-day national level seminar. Also, would like to give a very warm welcome to uh, two chairpersons of this panel discussion, Professor M.C. Arun, Department of Anthropology, Manipur University. Thank you, sir, for allowing to chair this session. And also Professor E. Vijay Kumar Singh, Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy. Thank you, sir, for chairing this panel session. And also would like to welcome all the discussants of this panel discussion. And with this also we have three more technical sessions during this 3-day seminar. So I, on behalf of the organizing committee, would like to give a very warm welcome to all the moderators of these three technical sessions. Would like to mention their names: Dr. Zangmang Buite, Associate Professor, Department of History, Manipur University; Dr. Kum Khan Pao, Associate Professor, History Department, Manipur University; Dr. T.H. Umabati Devi, Associate Professor, Department of Sociology, M. College University; and also all the paper presenters. And also would like to welcome all the distinguished invitees, learned professors, friends, students, and media persons. Whoever is there, I would like to give a very warm welcome. And also taking this opportunity in giving this welcome address, I would like to drop a few words in relation with this 3-day national seminar. First of all, I would like to quote Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Once he said, there is inequality in our society. So this inequality can be addressed by means of education. So this is very relevant in the context of this seminar. And also, he also said, education enables a man to overcome all obstacles in life, be it social problems, cultural or economic in nature. As we all know that Manipur has achieved progress in education in selected parameters like enrollment, like controlling dropout rates, efficiency and equity. But still, uh, there is there is inequality. So the concept note of this 3-day national seminar revealed that there is a embedded problem in our society. So we need to look at the social group of our society. Though Manipur achieved success in various parameters of education, but still in the social in social group, if you look at the scheduled tribe inhabited area, there is loophole and lacuna in education. So I think this 3-day national seminar will address this problem of chronic problem of education of Manipur. With this few words, I would like to conclude here. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir, Dr. T.H. Bharat Singh, Associate Professor, for delivering the welcome address. Though the physical presence could not be made due to the restriction of COVID-19 guidelines, nevertheless, we will have our keynote address to be virtually delivered by Professor Palaida Dhar, Professor in Education and Dean Research, Department of Extension, Education and CRT, and ERIE and NCRT Shillong to deliver the welcome address. Ma'am, you can take your time.
Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me as the keynote speaker of this 3D National Conference. And secondly, for choosing a very relevant topic that is on the educational scenario in Manipur with a special reference to education in the hill areas. So, this is a very relevant topic and a very one of the important area and a very close area to my heart when we talk about the education in the hill areas, or in other words we say it as a tribal education. So I hope you see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So to begin with, esteemed chief guest Professor N. Lokendra Singh, the Vice Chancellor, Manipur University, the guests of honor, Shri C. Arthur Chumyo, IAS, Director TA&H TRI Manipur, Professor T. Inoibi Singh, Dean School of Education, Manipur University, the functional president, Professor E. Bijoy Kumar Singh, Director, Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University, my dear presenters, and all present in this 3-day national conference. So to begin with, I should say that, when we talk about, I will not take much of my time. So let me begin by saying that Manipur is a multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic, and also a multi-religious state. So having said this, the when I go through many of the articles written on tribal education, on education on the hill areas of Manipur, there are also loopholes, there are problems, there are concerns, there are challenges. That's why my presentation will be on education in the hill areas of Manipur, concerns and challenges. So we do have challenges. We education is still lacking there. So, but still, it is not only in the state of Manipur when it comes to tribal education. It is the problems which exist in other states also, because I have conducted one research study. Again, the research study is in the hill areas of Manipur way back, and it is the the studies is on the teachers and students absenteeism. This is the reasons and the factors we will be I'll be sharing with you. And also I found a similar problems with other states, say like the state of Tripura. The studies which I have done in the tribal blocks of Tripura also do have a similar problems. So, having said this, the state of Manipur at present has many of the it has developed and it has progressed, and we see there are many schools which has been established. There are many colleges which has come up, and also we do have the universities. And still, since the first high school, the establish of the first high school in the district of Manipur in the year 1951. So there is progress, there is development, but still when we talk about quality education, there is no limit to quality education. We do have to work, and we do have to put our efforts, our sincerity, our commitment when it comes to to quality education, with special reference to tribal education. Can you see the next slide?
No, madam. Yeah, yeah. Yes, madam.
Okay. Is the slide moving?
Yes, madam.
Okay, so we do see the progress of education, right from school education to teacher education to higher and technical education in the state of Manipur. And when it comes to the tribal education, we see that the progress of tribal population in the hill is largely depends upon their educational advancement. So the more it advances, the more it is it is developed, the more there will be more progress. There will be more progress. So that is why we need to emphasize. We need to emphasize. We need to put our efforts on on upgrading the education in this for the tribal population. And the state of Manipur has put great efforts towards education after 1972 by opening schools of different grades in all parts of the hill areas. So let me just take a little bit on what the NEP, the latest document, which is the in thing in nowadays in the field of education. Everyone is talking about the NEP 2020. Let us just little bit. I do just want to highlight little points which the NEP 2020 talks about tribal education. So NEP 2020 has recommended that regions of the country with large population from educationally disadvantaged, which is the the socially educationally disadvantaged groups, it should be declared special education zones. So these areas should have this this label as special education zones, where all the schemes and policies, you have to remember that all the schemes and policies are implemented to the maximum. So whatever schemes, whatever policies which are meant for special education zones, which is meant for educationally disadvantaged, population, should be implemented to the maximum through additional concerted efforts in order to truly change their educational landscape. So this is one way in which the educational scenario of the hill areas can be transformed, can be revamped. So having said this, I just have put two things here. One is the sustainable development goals, which is another important area and important dimensions or parameters or aspects you can say in the field of education, which we need to achieve in 2030. India has made its effort in achieving these SDG goals. The goal 4, which is the standalone goal in the field of education, has to be achieved by 2030. So what I'm trying to say here is, besides the SDG, we also do have the global citizenship education. These two important things, even though the GZ, we call it the GZ, comes under SDGs, but I'm keeping it into category. So these two, because now with NEP there has to be change in the curriculum. Everyone knows, from the school level we should have a four sets of curriculum. When it comes to teacher education, there will be another new revised curriculum, and higher education too. So what I'm trying to say is these two important aspects may be integrated in the, in the curriculum, in the syllabi, in the textbook, which we can prepare our children for 21st century skills too. Uh, you know, and will be able to achieve, and these can be integrated in the textbook. And while several programmatic interventions to uplift children from tribal communities are currently in place, we do have, interventions, we do have programs, we do have schemes, they are in place. It will continue to be pursued with special mechanism needs to be made to ensure that children belonging to tribal communities receive the benefits of these interventions. So whatever intervention is meant for the tribal communities, it has to be implemented to the maximum utilization of these interventions so that it will benefit the outcome. We will see the outcome. Nowadays we are also talking about learning outcomes, the learning outcomes which has been developed by, NCRT. There is a document at the elementary level, at the secondary level, and now it is at the higher secondary level. So these learning outcomes also teachers need to be aware of. Teachers need to know what are the learning outcomes in this specific class, in this subject. They need to be oriented, they need to be sensitized on the learning outcomes. So we need to also look into the learning outcomes. We have to prepare the students now to be competent, you know from content to competency. Now we are moving, they need to be competent. So opening up of NCC in dominated areas, and another important areas is the early childhood care and education. This also will have to be introduced in ashram shalas in tribal dominated areas. And the NEP 2020 do emphasize on tribal languages, you know, the tribal languages, tribal knowledge, tribal ethno-medical practices. There must be so many practices also in the state of Manipur. So these has to be promoted, tribal traditions, and also efforts to preserve and promote all Indian languages, including tribal and endangered languages.
Yes, yes.
It will be have to be taken on a new vigor. So let us besides those things which I have talk about on NEP. Now let us see now what do we need to to strengthen the hill areas of Manipur, starting from the school education to teacher education to higher and technical education respectively. So I'm taking these points from the NEP 2020 document. So, as I mentioned, the ECCE, which is the foundation of learning, needs to be strengthened. The foundational literacy and numeracy, in short, we call it FLN. So, there is a mission which has started now. So, this is an urgent and necessary prerequisite to learning. So, we have to also curtail, curtailing the dropout rates. We do have problems with the dropout rates even in still in the northeast northeast states. We do have increasing of dropout rates, so we need to curtail these problems and ensure universal access to education at all levels. So another point here is regarding the curriculum and pedagogy in schools. Teachers need to not only be competent in the content but also in pedagogy. That is why emphasis and focus has been there in laying importance on the pedagogy right from the school level onwards, where learning should be holistic. The learning should be holistic, learning should be integrated, and learning should be enjoyable and engaging. So another important aspect here is also when it comes to higher education, we also talks about quality universities and colleges. We do have shortage of colleges at the hill areas. We know it. So we need to to walk out on that. And besides this, because so that the enrollment will be more, so that enrollment in higher education will be more. And besides this increasing of enrollment, we also do need to have stress on quality. So universities, quality universities and colleges which is a new and forward looking vision for India's higher education system. So we also need to move towards a more holistic and multidisciplinary education, so that you all know we are working on that. Right from school level and higher education. Now also it has to be, this multidisciplinary education. Then there should also be optimal learning environments and support for students, and also the faculty should be motivated. They should be energized, and they should be capable faculty. Besides faculty, we also do need effective governance and leadership. We need effective governance and leadership for higher education institutions. So this, we have heard about effective governance, we have heard about school leadership. So now we do also need, effective governance and leadership for higher education institutions. And one important, key areas of focus also includes the integration of technology, use and integration of technology, the online and digital education, ensuring equitable use of technology. So this is a great challenge. It is a great challenge, especially with the pandemic, when everything is online. Classes are online. We now with digital India, technology has to reach, the remote hill areas too. It should reach them, but still, there is the have and the have nots when it comes to technology. When it comes to technology, especially with the pandemic, we see that there are families which cannot afford to have a smartphone, to have a phone. So there is, this is another challenge and another issue which we face. So looking into the, the minority tribal areas, we can see that still it is lacking behind by, minimal educational development. So let us quickly see what are these concerns and challenges very quickly. Proxy system of teachers do exist, you know then we have non-availability of well qualified and trained teachers in the rural tribal areas, which is a serious problem, because now with NEP 2020, vocational education will come, then multidisciplinary approach, new curricular areas will come up. Then we need to have trained and qualified teachers. Then another very prominent, prominent problems we can see here is the language education or linguistic, where the, the medium of instruction in the school is different, the home language is different, the textbook, the language of the textbook is different. So we should bridge all these gaps. These gaps need to be bridged, because for learning to take place, to see the learning outcomes. Then problems of higher secondary schools. We do have shortage of higher secondary schools. We do have shortage of colleges in tribal areas. We need to work out in this. We need to, have more set up and establish more of these schools and colleges. Maybe a residential schools may work out in the hill areas, because of sparsity of population. The population is very, it is spreading. That's why we need to have such type of provision for them. There is also lack of institutions of higher learning. That is why the next problem is lack of enrollment. We have lack of enrollment in higher education. Why? Because we have lack of institutions of higher learning. Another very prominent problem is there is absenteeism and substitution of teachers. Students is absenteeism, but substitution of teachers, that I think everyone knows about this problem. We have to, see and look, and when it comes to teachers absenteeism, we should try to understand. We should try to see as, teachers, that we are accountable. We are accountable, we are responsible, and we have to work out and chalk out strategies in how to minimize these problems. Because I remember when I did this study on students absenteeism in tribal blocks of Tripura, but when I go to the field, I thought of changing the the title and my study to teachers absenteeism. There is so much of teachers absenteeism also in the hill areas, which is which is a concerns, which is a concerns and a challenge which has to be taken up. Then we do have inadequate teaching staff. There are many government schools with less teachers. There are lack of trained and adequate qualified teachers, especially in science and maths. This is a prominent problem in the state of Manipur too, in the region as a whole. We do have lack of trained and inadequate qualified teachers, especially in science and maths. Then poor or lack of infrastructure, another issue, because when we talk about quality education, when there are so many factors which contributed to quality education. Everyone are responsible, all the stakeholders are responsible, from teachers to parents to community members. So there is the lack of basic basic facilities, the basic facilities, the unavailability of basic facilities which we couldn't provide to students. This also is an issue where students stay for a longer period in the class, in the school. So basic facilities like pure drinking water, like separate toilets, these are small things, playground, but do contribute to education and learning of the children. Then we see there is low enrollment rate, absenteeism is there, and also increase in dropout rates. Then there is also absence of vocational and job oriented subjects. So we need to have new curricular areas. We need to work out on vocational education now with NEP. It is recommended that from class 6 onwards, there will be a pre-vocational education. We hope that it is implemented and work out, and there can be this vocational education can be one area which will have to be strengthened, so that will be producing students who are independent and who are self sufficient. Then educational provisions, quickly now we come to what are the educational provisions which can be provided to the students in the hill areas. For example, we can provide free textbooks, and textbooks also can be, in if possible, we can have bridge material for them. We can have a textbook written in their dialect, in their language. Then free uniforms, fees, it is exists in government schools, but these are provisions which we can continue to provide them. The teaching learning material, the TLM. Then we can have post matric scholarship, I hope it is there. Then residential schooling facilities can be there because of the scarcity of the population. This can be one suggest, it can be one steps which can be taken up in order to curb up with the dropouts, with the low enrollment. This can be done. Then for higher education, special coaching classes for the for the tribal students, for preparing them like net exams, the SLET. So this can also be one initiative which can be taken up. Then establishment of educational institutions. There is we call it as twin criteria. There is a twin criteria whenever we establish any education institution based on two criteria: population and distance. But because of the geographical, because of the location of the hill areas, this this even if the population is less also, there can be the school can be set up, education system can be set up. So this criteria can be taken into consideration. Then we also have the Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya, or the KGBV we call it, for the underprivileged girl children. This can be can be emphasized. The children can be enrolled, girl student can be enrolled there. When it's set up, it is only for class 10. With the Samagra Shiksha, it has got upgraded till class 10. But now with the NEP 2020, these schools will be upgraded till class 12. So it will be beneficial for the hill areas. Then we can have the pre-service and the in-service teachers training program. We can have also a better system of examination. We are talking about holistic assessment. We are talking about 360-degree assessment. So these can be also be implemented, brought out, reach out to the hill areas, to the students who are to the tribal students. Vocational and job oriented curriculum, this curriculum now it has to be revised. So we have to see that the curriculum is vocational based and job oriented. Then law order situation can be improved. Then equitable and inclusive education, not only at the school level but till higher education. Education has to be equal and it has to be inclusive. Inclusive education, for it is a very broad term which includes education for SCs, STs, minorities, underprivileged, girl children, minority, all of those children. Then we can also have the accommodation of our teachers in the hill areas. Suppose they are posted in the hill areas, difficult areas, accommodation provision, for accommodation can be set up for them, and incentive also may be provided for them, so that they'll be able to to serve in that area. And community participation, this is also one aspect which has to be strengthened. Community has to be part and parcel of the education system, because when you remember the NCF 2005, it states that there should not be a boundary wall between the school and the community. So community participation needs to be strengthened. We as community also is one factor which also is accountable and responsible for providing quality education right from school to higher education. Then let me come to the conclusion. So in conclusion, I should say that quality education, whether it is at the school level or at the university level, must be made available for all students irrespective of geographical location, ethnicity, caste, gender, class, etc. And the state as a whole and society in particular may address these concerns and challenges. So that is why it is desirable here to have a separate, maybe a separate allocation of funds and development strategies for the tribal living in the hill areas, for their benefits, and protect the due share of the poor tribal living in the hill areas. Especially, a separate set of developmental measures are needed for hill areas who mostly depend on June cultivation. One of the factor which came out when I did the study in Tripura when it comes to students' absenteeism, it is because of the June cultivation. During that period, you will not find students coming to the school at all. So, there are factors, there are these issues, problems which has solution, which needs to be worked out. So thus we need to revamp and to transform the educational system in the hill areas of Manipur. And I should say that all these stakeholders are responsible, me, you, everyone, is in providing quality education to the hill areas of Manipur. So thank you so much for your patient listening. I hope that the 3-day seminar will be a successful one, and with the deliberations in the 3 days seminar, and with the recommendations from the seminar, it will be beneficial, it will work out, and it will be implemented. It will be implemented and it will go to the grassroots level. Two, it will reach out till the last student and the last teacher in the hill areas of Manipur. So I wish again the 3 days seminar success. I have seen the papers, they're very, very, good papers, quality papers. So I hope with those papers and with the recommendations from this from this seminar, it will really improve the quality of education in the hill areas of Manipur, or for the tribal students. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Balaikar R. Kar, Professor in Education and Dean, Research Department of Extension, Education, Law, for your well-highlighted address to this issue. So poignantly pointing out the concerns and challenges, and also for the innovative measures and recommendations to be taken up on the seminar's topic. Thank you so much once again. Coming up next, we shall have the speeches from our guest of honor. May I first have our Sri C. Arthur Portillo, IAS, the Director of Tribal Affairs and Fields at TRI, to take to the lectern for your speech.
Thank you. Professor N. Lokendra Singh, Chairman, Manipur University, and the Chief Guest of the 3-day national level seminar on the scenario in Manipur with special reference to education in hill areas, being organized by the Department of Tribal Affairs in collaboration with the Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University, and funded by the Professor T. Inaudi Singh, Deans for Education, Manipur University, guest of honor of the program, Professor E. Vijay Kumar Singh, Director, Center for Study of Social Inclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University, Professor Balaidar R. Dhar, Professor in Education and Dean, Research Department of Extension Education, Shillong, the keynote address, distinguished invitees, dear friends. I'm not an intellectual, so I'll not try to be one. I will certainly share a few issues and challenges that we have faced in the field of education in the tribal areas. These are all from a practical point of view as an administrator that I experienced. And I would share some possible ideas. I won't call them possible ideas that be used to tackle. The first, as Professor Thar also was saying, I would speak about the primary education in hill areas. As you all know, the entire mammoth of education, especially in the primary level, especially in the primary level, is entrusted upon the autonomous district council schools. Primary, we call them ADC schools. They take it up to the primary level. But we have problems of teachers, proxy teachers. In fact, one of my old friend who had been recruited somewhere around 2009 wanted to genuinely go to the village and teach. But when she reached the village chief told her, we can't afford to keep you here because we cannot take care of your housing, we cannot take care of your security. So better you go back to your village and let us share your salary 50-50 and I will employ somebody from the village. This was a teacher who genuinely wanted to teach. So you can see the predicament here, that there is a teacher who wants to teach, but the infrastructure of the facility that is available at that level is such that from a practical point of view, the chief decides. It is not practical for you to teach. So here lies the dilemma. And if you have been keeping tab, recently there was this demand in the ATC schools that the teaching should be in their local dialect. So you imagine if we have a ATC school, let's say in Senapati, that particular school would have students who would be Tangkhus, who would be Nepali, who would be Mao, who would be Kupki, Thado. So can we afford to? Of course, there's a constitutional mandate that at a primary school, the emphasis should be on mother tongue or mother dialect, however you call it. Now, but can we afford afford to keep on recruiting teachers like this? And can we afford to keep on, trying to build infrastructure with unlimited budgetary support? You'll be surprised that the majority of the funds that go into the ADC schools, I would say about 97-98% is just on the salary. So you left about 2% of the funds to do other works related to school. So it is not possible. Now here lies the problem. So I discussed this issue with some of my friends, and in fact, Tamil Nadu, they are going to start something very different. Or I won't say different, but rather a little different idea. They are thinking that at the primary level, why not we think of homeschooling rather than this structuralized, institutionalized delivery through primary schools, which we are not able to deliver. And for a multi-diverse community like Manipur, especially in the hills, with the geography, and I've given you the practical example. So, one solution that they were hinting at. The other thing that they were suggesting was, when we look at education, we look at it only from the department's perspective, like education or the education department. But at the primary level, we have a very good system which is actually functioning in the social welfare department. That is the Anganwadi system. And as per their mandate also, they do cater to children above, up to 6 years. There could be a mechanism in which you share certain responsibilities as far as education is concerned, but though the department may be different. These are little ideas that you could explore. From an administrative point of view, I just wanted to share. And of course, the other suggestion they gave me was, could you think of para teachers at a village level? This should not be the structuralized system of recruiting primary teachers every 3 years, 4 years. Perhaps you could keep a set of trained para teachers which can cater to the requirement of the village itself or the nearby villages. They could be paid in the honorary kind of a mechanism. So in that para teacher system, you will not have this difficulty of accommodation, infrastructure, because they're there from the village. So that was another thought that they shared with me. Now, let me come to the school level, the high school level. I am not sure if, because I recollect about 3 or 4 years back, Kamjong High School had a pass percentage of 4 or 5%. Now, I got to know the main reason was that there was a political demand to upgrade the school up to higher secondary or something like that, without the infrastructure being in place. Now, why did the students fail? I got to know that there were no teachers to teach them science and mathematics. And there is this unsubstantiated clamor for, in the hill areas especially, that we will do science. As your acumen may be better off in humanities or commerce or whatever. So this was the predicament, that they upgraded the school, but they didn't have the teachers. And the same problem. Even if we do, in fact, in Kamjong example, I recollect, we found teachers, we posted them, but there was no accommodation for them. Then they got themselves transferred out. So my idea of sharing all this, I'm not trying to tell you all the bad or ill things about education scenario in Manipur. I'm just telling you the conceptualization, the thought process, and the delivery mechanism will be very different. This is a practical, thing that you need to understand. Of course, intellectually you could debate, okay, you could deliver pedagogy, maybe, change this way or that way. But when it comes to the delivery level, that is where the issue lies. And now, what could be the possible solution or idea about this? What I thought was, in the hill areas there is private schools also. And private school caters to all sorts of levels. Perhaps it could be a time that we partner each other in delivering the educational services. What I mean is, for example, when we talk of banks, you may have an SBI in Ukrul and SBI in Kamjong. The SBI in Ukrul caters to a particular geographical area. The SBI in Kamjong, though they are same, but they caters to a different geographical area. So whenever a school is to be set up, whether it's from a government side or a private side, we actually see the whole picture. See what is your geographical area, what is going to be your catchment area, what would be the catchment area of the government school. So basically what I'm saying is government alone will not be able to deliver the high school requirements as rightly pointed out during our keynote address. There is obviously a need to increase the infrastructure, but it's not going to happen through government means. There will be certain restrictions. So you need to find out, or rather think of ideas which you can partner with in the private sector. Of course, there will be issues about disparity and income and fee structure and all that. That we will deal at a later stage. And one model that is very successful, especially in the hill areas I've seen, is the residential school model. What I have noticed is that there's a clamor for this now, and results also proving it. If you talk of your JNV model, now in the tribal ministry, the Eklavya model residential school, it is really picking up, and we are having wonderful results, especially Sapar Maina. I'm sure we are just 3 functional now, but in the days to come, we'll have about 22 schools in Manipur. That to a huge extent will cater to the requirements. So another possibility could be that government decides to amalgamate all the schools. Let's say, okay, there are 8 high schools in a particular, let's say block. Instead of spending your limited resources equally in each school, you could think of amalgamating 2 or 3 of them and making it a bigger entity with fundings being once you restrict the number of schools. That is one option. And I have a little bit of experience as director of university and higher education. I'm referring to the college education. Of course, there is a need to increase the college, government colleges in the hill areas. Definitely, there is a need. I mean, like for an entire district like Tamenglong, there is just one college, Tamenglong College. For entire district like Senapati, there is one Hill Tatubi College. But what I recollect was, I don't know if the numbers have changed, but during my time, it was about 40 government and government-aided colleges. And my developmental fund for these 40 colleges was only about 5 crore a year. So you can imagine that there is a requirement of a lab to be set up or a lab to be renovated in one college and probably to add another classroom or an auditorium in another college. The funds were not at all sufficient. Majority of the funds were spent on teacher salary. This also is not going to, I'm sharing with you that, of course, we may discuss and say, oh, budgetary support should increase and all that. Probably it will take 7, 10 years down the line. The problem that we face is immediate. So what would be the immediate ideas of this? This is the same solution when we partner with the private. A lot of private colleges have come up, but then we decide our area of responsibility or a geography of responsibility, however you want to call it. And yeah, one more point I just wanted to add, which somehow gets missed out, although we all talk about it, is the inclusion of skill development in the education system that we follow. I have been fortunate to be mission director of skill development in Manipur. So what I noticed was skill development is thought of as a completely, entirely separate, and nothing to do with education. It's, like logically, what people think in Manipur is that those who have failed class 10 or those who can't pass class 12, they should go into skill development, which is actually the opposite. Even if you pass your class 10 or your graduation, you need to have certain skills when you enter the job market, or even if you want to do a private, whatever. Certain skill sets besides your educational qualification are always required. And in fact, the National Skill Qualification Framework, there is a mechanism like that, in which the skill development actually starts from your class 6 level onwards. So basically, they teach you the basics. Let's say class 9, when they start teaching, if you're interested in electricity, they start teach you basics of wiring, cabling, coating. Then you carry on the skill as a subject in class 10, then in class 12, even in your graduation. In fact, the talk is that the skill ecosystem should be such that you can go even to your PhD. That is the entire framework that we have to think of working, which is still not started here in Manipur, unfortunately. And finally, this is not related to uh, education per se, only in the hill areas. This is as an education as a whole. What I've noticed is many of us, of what is the end purpose of education? There has to be some purpose, for your own sake, to contribute to the society. So for that, we need to do something productive. The most obvious choice to be productive is to get into some job, get into some work, get into some kind of a productive mechanic. So what I noticed was many of us just do things blindly. In the sense, like for my own example, I did my class 10 and I liked a particular subject called physics. And I decided to follow it my class 12. Then after class 12, since I like physics, then I decided, okay, let me do engineering. But after I completed my engineering in electrical engineering, the job market was such that there was nothing to cater to in the electrical space. Those days it was the boom of .com. So I ended up becoming a software engineer, which was not what I wanted. Luckily, thankfully, I left it and come and something here. But I noticed that even among some of our colleagues, those who wanted medicine, the moment they see blood, they get scared. But when they want to be, a doctor or whatever, my thought was that since the coming generation would have their job structure would also be not very confined. Like we are IAS or we are a professor. I don't think the job profile in the future would be confined like that. Be very murky, lack of a better word. So what we need to do for the coming generation is after their class, it is my thought that they need to take a break from their school. And in case that particular student or girl or boy is interested, let's say in medicine, let us give him or her an opportunity to do an apprenticeship for 3 months in a clinic, in a hospital. Let's see whether he or she is really meant for doing that. Some of you may be very interested in environment and climate change and all that. Now, you need to go and join an NGO that actually works in it for 2, 3 months and find out whether you're built for it. Because many of us, I tell this from my own personal experience as well as experience of my friends. They are in a job that they hate, but they don't have any other option. But at least I feel that if there is a break kind of mechanism after class 10, and then they say, oh no, I don't like this science subject, I like something else, I like music. Let them pursue a profession and a career that they're going to enjoy. If they do that, then their education that they have gathered will contribute more positively than it is doing right now. It's just a thought that I wanted to share. Finally, in conclusion, I'm sure that very good quality papers will be presented. In fact, when I shared the the that we were to be discussing today, the ministry people are very appreciative of it. And in fact, this is the first time that we have collaborated with Manipur University, and I'm very thankful to the university authorities of having agreed to do so. And depending on the outcome, I'm sure that we can collaborate further in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your speech has always been very encouraging, and the pragmatic approach to the issue will surely bring fruition as we are today in a sea of esteemed intellectuals. May I now give the time to our second guest of honor, Professor D. Inau Ising, Dean, School of Education, Manipur University, to deliver his speech.
Morning, everyone, and all. Our Vice Chancellor, Manipur University, chief guest of today's of treaties, national seminar on national scenario in Manipur with special national education. It Keshawaner, Rishi, Arthur, IS, IS, Director, Tribal Affairs and Tribal Research Institute, and the respected E. Vijay Kumar Singh, Director, Center for Study of Social Exclusion and the Policy University, and under the sponsorship of the Ministry of Affairs and Government of Manipur, uh, the Tribal Research and Department of Tribal Affairs and Government of Manipur, pursuing it for study and policy, Manipur University, that respected all the events for the successful of this today's seminar. Here, little in relation of this today's seminar, I mentioned just I want to share something. Mainly of these 3 days seminar topics, just in the 3 days, quality education in Manipur, and the status of tribal education in Manipur, problem and prospects, quality education for 6 tribal areas, tribal peoples, and the education. This will be discussed, this will be delivered by the learned members of the resource. From this little one point I have to mention that quality education, always we are discussing about quality education. How we can say define is a quality education. Okay, education is very, very important to any community, any village, because a community or village or area is decide or given the value and the status of the community. When we discuss about the quality of education, we can discuss about this dimension, what and sustainability, and the and actualization, the balanced approach, children-friendly teaching, learning, and learning outcome. Here, I would like to mention that quality, equity in education program of quality education, maybe in country, maybe in the nation, maybe in the village. First, equity. You have to justify. You see, we also have seen, we have got a lot of experience when we admission, when we teach to the student. So many illegal students are teaching, studying. Some of them are working. Some of them are, say, double degree. So we have to be maintain this. Only then we can get, because this today's education thinking as a materialistic. Say Tagore says education is for the modification of human behavior. The thing is not for getting a job or getting a certificate. Education modify our human behavior. So we need to do a justice education system in every level. The second one, sustainability. Say how far we have maintained in the various area, various situations of education. This in today's scenario, this we have to be balanced. Say, for example, the hill area, what are the schemes are provided by the government in the government? But geographical difficulty, transportation, communication. Then balanced approach. In this balanced approach, Manipur also we have studied many different type of curriculum, different CSC, board, and And in the English schools also not similar on their syllabus curriculum. How will we balance of our all the education? A balance. Otherwise, we cannot assess a common assess of the different student, different level of the education. So this should be, we have to be balanced approach should be made. And third, 451 is a children friendly to learning teaching. How much the students are willing to come in the education and the institution? Is there any provided the friendly teaching, learning, and education? That we have to think, we have to keep provide for interest to come in the institution. And also, I don't think so. Say new policy, education policy, there is a system of five activities. The first phase of 5 years, they will be teaching anything, just they have to way methods. Of course, we need to interest to the student first. Then will come automatically to learn and they will come best express learning. Learning without any interest, we cannot learn. First, we have to give them to interest. Then last one is a learning outcome. Also already mentioned. Say I am a physical education student, educationist. I know how to maintain my body in this world, but I'm not apply. I cannot maintain. Say a person pass from the physics. He's a master. He's a research scholar, PhD scholar. Even in a house, a simple minor say mistake in the electrical, simply one switch is a spark. But he never or that no degree holder never repairing. Just a whole one fellow from the village. He's a good in the electrician, but he all don't have any degree. Why? What is the reason of the master degree in physics? Why don't he can make it a good say small spark in the house circuit of electric? Sometimes uh, say many of our sisters and say aunties and many families are study about the home science. When we see say household, she don't have any idea about the how to use a refrigerator, how to make a correct and cook. Then why? What is the learning outcome from this degree or her degree? These are the 5, 6 points we have to be in, we have to be implement, we have to execute by the concerned say that government or any concerned private organization or private institution say founders have to be discussed, have to be think and give to the children or any level of education. So this is the just I want to little share what I experienced. So lastly, thank you very much for uh, inviting me to this very meaningful and a very useful topic to context not only area. So once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss with you. Thank you once again. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, sir, Professor Inaobi Singh, Dean, School of Education, Manipur University, for sharing your expertise in this area of interest today. Thank you once again. May I now call upon our chief guest of today's function, Professor N. Lokendra Singh, Vice Chancellor of Manipur University, to do the honor of releasing a souvenir. Thank you so much, sir, and to our dignitaries for doing the honor. May I now call upon our chief guest of today's function to kindly grace this function with your speech.
Professor E. Vijay Kumar Singh, Director, Center for Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University. Shri C. Arthur Vartuyo, the Director of Tribal Affairs and the Tribal Research Institute, Manipur. Professor T. Naubi, Dean School of Education, Manipur University. Learned delegates, learned faculties of the university, distinguished invitees, and ladies and gentlemen. The education scenario in the hill areas of Manipur, as I see, is a changing process in the last 50 years or so. I feel that in the 1930s, even 50s, and in the 1960s, both at the level of primary education as well as the middle school education, it was a fairly good because the schools were very effectively and properly run, particularly in the missionary schools. The Tangkhul inhabited Ukhrul district, which produced some of the best batsmen, some of the best bureaucrats in the 1970s and 90s because they attained a fairly good education, primary as well as middle school and even high school education in the Ukhrul district. Similarly, even in Sujanpur district, a good number of the senior bureaucrats who had achieved the status of chief secretaries in many other states, competent administrators in the government of India, they all did their schooling in the 1950s, 60s, and even the early 70s. I think that the problem started in the 1970s. And it went through 1980s, 1990s. And of course, during the first decade of the 21st century. I'm a historian, and maybe my understanding of the problem is a little bit different from others. The socio-educational fabric of the hill districts of Manipur were thoroughly disturbed in the 1960s, in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early decades of the 21st century. So much so that a good number of very, very promising young children, they stopped thinking in positive terms, and even if they wanted to think, because of the disturbance in the socio-educational fabric, many of them began to move out from their districts. Many of them stayed in valley area, and at the better off, they started going off to many educational institutions outside the state. As a result, those people who could compete in the metropolitan institutions, in schools and colleges, they began to excel, and they started performing extremely well in different areas, different sectors of the economy. Many have turned out as successful entrepreneurs. Many have come out as very, very competent and successful bureaucrats, civil servants, academics. There are many of our colleagues who are working and doing extremely well in many of the metropolitan central universities across the country. Now, let me compare with the scenario of the hill areas of Manipur with the neighboring state of Nagaland during this particular period. 70s, 80s, 90s, and in the first decade of the 21st century. In Nagaland, in school education, high school education, they had adopted this system of communitization system. The resources were directly given to the community-based politico-administrative system, which was accepted by the provincial government, and the kind of absenteeism, the kind of lack of infrastructure that we have been seeing in the case of Manipur, it was not there in many of the districts of the neighboring Naga Hills in this period of 1970s, 80s, 90s, and the first decade of the 21st century. Now, because the community-based system, whenever the fund allocation was there, the time-tested community system, it worked effectively in Naga Hills. Whereas in the case of Manipur Hills, the time-tested community system had started crumbling down, both in all these hill districts, because of different different categories of and different systems of radical socio-political and educational changes, which have completely disturbed the system. Now, therefore, when we think about restoring the earlier system in which good number of our brilliant students were coming out, we'll have to keep in mind the kind of socio-political system that has come up in all these hill districts. So far as the college education is concerned, I think many of the hill colleges are doing fairly well. When we go through the report or the results of the university examinations, students of Don Bosco College, Mana, Residency College, Pettigrew College. Pettigrew, of course, they don't seem to be coming up very well as compared to the students of Tandil College and even the Moray College. I think they are doing very well. And in fact, many students from the Delhi area, they go to all these colleges because there are new courses which are open in Don Bosco College, Mara. It has now become an autonomous college. And hopefully, this institution can grow into maybe to the status of a deemed university in a very short period of time. Faculties of this college, they seem to be working very hard, and there's a lot of possibilities for some of the colleges, undergraduate colleges in the hill districts of Manipur. Now, NEP has come up, new education policy 2020 has come up. Manipur University had already constituted two committees, one for the undergraduate program and another for the PG program. The two committees have already submitted their recommendations, and the academic council of the university had already taken a decision to adopt NEP 2020 in the affiliated colleges of Manipur University with effect from the academic year 2022-23. In the university, there are certain undergraduate programs which the university is running. There are 5-6 programs. One is the EVOC, MVOC program. Then we have the foreign language program. Particularly, we are running the BA in Korean language. We have started bachelor program in dance. We have started bachelor program in music. We have started a bachelor program physical education. For these 5-6 programs, we have already restructured the syllabus in line with the New Education Policy 2020-2020. We have offered the newly structured NEP 2020 in these 5-6 undergraduate program in the university. University believe that it should be introduction of the NEP 2020 should be in a phase-wise system. We have introduced this in the campus-based program with an intention of experimenting it and gradually expand it to different courses that are being offered in many of the affiliated colleges of the university. We have already requested the deans of different schools of study all and to discuss the problem of restructuring the syllabus of the undergraduate program of different schools of studies which are being offered in the affiliated colleges or in hills and the plain, and hopefully it should be some of the serious considerations for the academic council, forthcoming academic council of the university. Taking advantage of this, I'd like to say gathering, I'd like to appeal to all the faculties who are available here that while restructuring the syllabus of the undergraduate program, we must try to incorporate papers on communication skill, particularly speaking communication skill as well as writing skill. We must incorporate paper on the foreign language skill, because now that with some knowledge on foreign language, our student can apply for jobs in many of the companies, mostly in the Japanese and Korean companies which are operating in India, and our students, and we are now planning to somehow encourage offering of this foreign language even in the nursing colleges in Manipur, because many of our nursing students are being they are very much in demand in many of the Southeast Asian and the Far East Asian countries. And we are also thinking about, and our request to all the academics and faculties is to incorporate vocational courses so that as and when our students complete their program, they can certainly apply for job. If they don't apply, they can think of say becoming entrepreneurs. They can think of say getting opportunities of the different flagship programs that are being offered by the provincial as well as the central government. And I think with the new policy that is NEP 2020 in the pipeline, we are very hopeful of bringing about some kind of a fundamental socio-economic change in the state, because education, after all, it's a very, very liberating and a very, very, democratizing force. And as one of our colleagues was speaking in the welcome address, as one of the important objective of this seminar is to discuss and debate on the issue of exclusion and inclusion. Education certainly should be able to help in liberating and democratizing what the thought process as well as the social practices in many of the hill districts of Manipur. With these few words, I would like to thank the organizer for taking up such an important and very, very crucial theme for debate and discussion. And I believe that the recommendations of this seminar should certainly provide the necessary input to the provincial government as well as even to the university in say, formulating new policy guidelines. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We are very grateful to you, sir, for gracing this inaugural function of our 3-day national level seminar on educational scenario in Manipur with special reference to education in the hill areas, with your presence as the chief guest, and also to have a highly regarded intellectual as you are, have really made this program a very wholesome one. Thank you once again. We shall now have the address from our president of the function today, Professor E. Bijoy Kumar Singh, the Director, Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University. Sir, please take your time.
Respected Professor N. Lokendra Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, and the chief guest of today's function, Professor Balaja R. Dikhar, Dean, Research Department of Extension Education, NERI, NCERT, and the keynote speaker of today's function, Sri C. Arthur Vargio, IAS, Director, Civil Affairs and Hills, and PRI, Manipur, with the guest of honor, Professor K. Inavi Singh, Dean, School of Education, Manipur University, with the guest of honor, invitees, participants, and the members of the media. CSS EIP considers it an honor to be associated with TRI in this seminar, trying to understand the interface between our education system and well-being of the people in the hills of Manipur in the 75th year of our independence. Inclusive development seeks to ensure that every section of the society can avail of all opportunities and benefit generated by economic development. Any inter-community or group-based gap in access should be minimized and ultimately eradicated. Education is known to be a great enabler of social mobility. In 2011, as much as 42.79% of the population of the state were in the hill districts, and about 95% of the scheduled tribe population are found in the hill districts of Manipur, while the remaining 5% are in the valley districts. The 3-day seminar on education and scenario in Manipur, with special reference to education in the hill areas, seeks to examine holistically the progress of education in the hill areas of Manipur under 3 broad themes. There is status of tribal education in Manipur, problems and prospects, quality of education or change in hill districts or tribal areas, and tribal people's access to education. The basic issue is how inclusive has been our education system vis-a-vis the people in the hills. The seminar would critically discuss, deliberate, explore, dissect, and reflect upon whether people at the grassroots level, especially the tribals and the tribal women in the hill areas of the state, have the minimum desired prescribed access to quality education and educational infrastructure, whether the right to education has been effectively delivered and has served the intended progress and objectives, and whether the educational system structure of the state excludes the tribals. Now, understanding the barriers will enable us to reduce the gap in a sustained manner and cope with the tensions in society is going through. To understand anything, however complex it may be, we have to question from different perspectives, introducing new indicators. Since the coming of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, we have had the opportunity of examining hundreds of indicators, and the process continues at different levels of the government, center, state, and districts, under localization of international indicators. The SDG India Index is published annually by the NITI Aayog since 2019, and now we have a number of indicators for education also, which I will not go into detail. But let me share some relevant portion with the distinguished participants from our vision of Manipur 2030, which CSSEIP had the honor to develop in 2019 for the government of Manipur. In the strategic vision of Manipur, every citizen in the state by 2030 will have no problem in educating his children, because schools in the state, both public and private, with a state-of-art academic and physical facilities, provide good and affordable education to his children. Everyone will cherish openness. The government will be committed in the realization of the vision with full cooperation of every section of society, both inside and outside the state. This is an excerpt from Manipur State Vision 2030. We hope to publish the proceedings of the seminar as early as possible so that the findings reach the concerned people and appropriate remedial and enhancing policy measures can be taken up. I wish the participants a hectic and a highly enriching 3 days of interaction and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your elaborative deliberation to bring out success on this 3D national level seminar. Now, as we are nearing the end of the inaugural function, may I call upon Sri S.T. Ritham Anal, MCS, Additional Director of Tribal Affairs and Field, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we have come to the close of today's inaugural functions on the 3-day national seminar on educational scenario in Manipur with special reference to education in the hill areas, being organized by Tribal Research Institute Manipur in collaboration with Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University, sponsored by Tribal Affairs Ministry, Government of India. As we have come to the close of today's inaugural function, I take this opportunity to thank Professor N. Lokendra Singh, Vice Chancellor of Manipur University, and today's chief guest, for his presence in our midst despite his busy schedule and enlightening everyone present here with his insightful messages into the various issues and developmental aspects of education in the hills over the last few decades. Thank you, sir. I also take this opportunity to thank Sir C. Arthur Mochuyo, Director of Tribal Affairs in Hills and Tribal Research Institute Manipur, and the guest of honor for today's function, for his guidance and leadership in organizing this kind of very important issues related to education in the hill areas. I also thank Professor E. Bijoy Kumar Singh, the president of today's inaugural function, and Professor T. Inaubi Singh, the guest of honor, for their effort in making this event a success. I also thank all the invitees, the participants, and the media team for your presence and making this event a grand success. Without your participants, this event would have been a success. Thank you all. And last but not the least, I express my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to all the officers of TRI and Manipur University for the hard work that they all have put in to make this inaugural function of the 3-day national seminar a grand success. Once again, I thank everyone present out here for all the participations and the contributions that you have made to today's function. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. ST Ritum Anal, MCS, Additional Director of Tribal Affairs and Field, for beautifully well thought of on your notes of gratitude. Thank you once again. Now, as we come to the close of this function, we thank you so much, everyone, for joining with us. And a light refreshment is being served outside this hall. So as we finish, kindly head towards it.